So let's now segue into something that we talked about previously, which is one of the main reasons why you're on, which you mentioned, which is your health issues, right?
Yep.
So if you want to just tell everyone what you...
Yeah, no, definitely. So I guess if you were listening to the last 20, 30 minutes, you're probably thinking, geez, he's had it pretty easy. He's gone and networked with some people and done a university degree, grown up in a good family, all that kind of stuff. But everyone has their challenges and everything. So in terms of myself, I've been diagnosed with manic depression. That's bipolar 2. So similar to episode 2 as well. So it'd be cool to see the differences because it affects people in different ways. I've been through, mainly the thing that I struggle with is the depression. I've only had 1 or 2 mania episodes. So bipolar 2, for the listeners that don't know, is classified by sustained periods of depression and then a likelihood to go up too high into manic behaviour. I guess the thing that happens is I'm a conversational person. I love meeting people, I love talking to people, but as soon as depression takes over, my conversation ability goes. So for a podcaster, for a marketer, it's very hard for me. And then negative thoughts start coming in, inactivity, don't want to get up, I don't shave, I don't, all of the symptoms in terms of inactivity, demotivation, inability to function as a normal human being gets taken away. So, and these depressive episodes, they're not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, they're 6 to 8 months. Longest one I've had is probably 11 months.
Wow. When were you first diagnosed? What age?
At 23, 24.
Right.
Yeah, so early 20s.
Yep.
Which typically happens.
Yeah, it's generally late teens, maybe. Well, from what I know, my mum's obviously got bipolar type 1, and this is why you agreed to this. We connected over that. And, hers was late teens. It's generally, I don't know what it is, but sometimes a traumatic event or something can trigger it. The genetics, it's a genetic thing generally, from what I know.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Mine is, my depression is very situational. So something will happen to me, and then my ability to cope with it goes away. So it's like a bucket. So you look at it like everyone has ability to cope with different stressors, and their bucket fills up. But if you don't have any sort of mental illness, especially me, your bucket, it gets holes in it and you deal with it. But for me, it fills up too much, tips over, and then I avoid everything.
So do you take medication regularly, or what's the treatment plan for you?
No, good question. Yes, I take medication. People sometimes shy away from that. They say, I don't want to use medication to treat my illness.
Yeah, which is,
It bamboozles me because if you have a cold, what do? You take cold medication. If you have a broken arm, you put it in a sling and you probably take pain medication as well. If you have a headache, you take pain medication as well. So if you have a mental illness, which is still an illness, you take medication for it. There shouldn't... This stigma around it I don't get, and maybe it's some people, they just have a predisposition to it. But so I'm taking sodium valproate, about 1,200 milligrams of that, and then 200 milligrams of quetiapine, both of which are mood stabilizers. So for someone diagnosed with bipolar, either 1 or 2, giving them an antidepressant isn't a great idea, because an antidepressant's job is to lift your mood. Now, if you lift your mood too high, you go into a manic episode, which is that's what happened to me. So they diagnosed, like second episode, it was diagnosed with manic depression depressive.
The
first. But then, so I was diagnosed with depression first. They gave me Zoloft, which is a fair call because
based on what you present.
Present, but then I went manic.
Yeah.
So, this is another interesting thing. That period of time is a lot of fun. To the people around you, not so much. But when you're in it, creativity, energy, motivation, passion, especially after a depressive episode, then it sort of feels like, you're getting your skills back.
Yeah, and they're very, people, my mum was type 1, so I was more used to the mania, so she was very, very high all the time. A little bit flat sometimes, but there might be days where she'd just stay in bed not do anything, which is more the depressive side, but the more mania side. And the thing about the medication is very correct. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. Unfortunately, from my experience with a couple of people I know with bipolar, they would always do the same. Take the medication, I'm better now. Not take it. Relapse, hospital, do it again, get your medication right.
It's this cycle.
Oh, it's a never-going cycle, I'm never going to go in hospital again. And then 3 months later, stop taking medication, I'm better now, go back in.
Yeah.
So,
it's the thing, the medication isn't there, because, I likened it to a headache. So I likened it to you take your medication, your Panadol, whatever it is, and then your headache's gone, you stop taking it. Mental illness is not like that. It's maintenance. It's a consistent thing. I've gone through periods where, I've forgot to take my medication. I haven't ever purposely played around with it in terms of I'm feeling a bit depressed, so maybe if I stop it, I'll go into a manic phase, which people can be tempted to do. But I haven't ever gone, I'm feeling good now, I'm going to stop taking my medication. For me, it's been out of laziness and just not having the routine. So my girlfriend has now bought me a pill box that's, every day. And she actually, literally, amazing support system. Thank you. She puts all my pills in there. So when it comes to night, because I'm working late, but when it comes to night, I just open the thing, drink all the pills, and then I'm done. So I've got this support. I'm an amazing partner, amazing girlfriend that knows that I need to take my medication. And if I'm not taking my medication, then bad stuff's going to happen.
It's very important what you said then, and we had to get a situation where basically we had to have a nurse on the cycle come around every morning to make sure she took it, because it got to a stage where it's just relapse, and the resources that would take, it was almost cheaper for them just to send someone around every morning to make sure she was taking the medication. And that's a common thing. But in regards to what you said before, routine's very important. So you have a routine where you do that in the morning, but what else is there in a daily routine? Because I know we had our last interviewee, which was Simon, and for him, it was very interesting what you said, situational, because his situational thing, which was a lot of pressure on himself to be perfect, right, in a competitive environment, which would force his stuff. And so he had a routine now which he has to stick to, So I don't know, what does your routine generally look like?
Yeah, at the moment, my routine's very much based around my business, and that's what's giving me purpose, passion, and motivation. And do I want a more structured routine where I wake up at 7 a.m. and go to the gym and do all that? Yes, I do, but that's not what I'm doing at the moment. So I can be better. That's the other thing. You can always be better, but don't put judgment. In terms of, I guess, a routine to stay out of depression, it's more getting out and doing podcasts. So being prolific on podcasting is what's actually keeping me healthy, because I'm getting out and meeting new people. So if I'm around people, I guess as a routine, that'll be my routine. If I'm getting around people as much as possible, that will help me immensely. Different for different people, but for me, doing things like this is almost therapy.
That's great.
Yeah.
So with you said some long times when you were depressed, like 8 months, 11 months, and that's a very long time. Were you, in that time, were you hospitalised at all, or was it just more of you were adjusting medication, or you had a cycle you're dealing with, or how did it...
I'm lucky in the fact that I've only been to hospital once. And that was during the manic phase. My depression, look, I'm very easy at hiding it. It basically affects the outer people of my circle first, because I'll start avoiding things like work or social commitments or parties or that kind of thing. Then it my partner, she for 5 months of it, 6 months of it, she had an idea. She was like, something's not quite right. But I'm able to act sort of normal, apart from the so I drop Lisa off. I'd wake up at 8 o'clock. I'd drop her off to placements that she was having. But then instead of coming back home and I was still doing uni at the time, doing the work I had to do, motivation and passion was so low that I just climbed back into bed. So it was this sustained period of where it didn't get to a point where I had to go to hospital because the people around me didn't see that I had to go to hospital. In my head, I'd be driving and I'd be going, maybe I should just pull myself into a hospital because I know I'm not right. But the people that are closest to me, and this is something that I've learned, is I need to speak up, because unless you tell someone, the mask of depression, people wouldn't know.
It's very true, and it's a good point what you said then. So I was going to just ask now, is many people surprised to find out you have bipolar type 2, just based on your personality, and you're obviously talking to so many people every day as well. Are you surprised that you actually have that?
Incredibly surprised. I went and did a talk at my university to a few classrooms of master's students. One of the people in that classroom was a friend that I did the undergraduate degree with. After which she came up to me, just chatted, thank you for doing this. But then she sent me a message later on during the day and said, I didn't even realise that was a part of your life. And she's like, apologised for not being there, or whatever. So people are surprised. It's something that you can mask very well, and that's the danger of it, because you see people committing suicide, you see people, so trigger warning, but you see people doing things to themselves, and it's a surprise to people. But if they just spoke up, or if someone was a little bit more, and that's why things like Are You OK Day and all this thing is good, but speaking up, you have a responsibility. If you have that mental illness, you have a responsibility to tell at least one person, even if that's your psychologist or your psychiatrist or your GP. And it can be hard, because sometimes you don't want to ask for help. But you've got a responsibility, I think, to have at least one person. And everybody, unless there are circumstances, but everybody should at least have one person that they can go, hey, I'm going to be out for a couple of weeks and I'm not feeling good, but just check in on me. Because it's too easy to hide it.
Are you surprised about the lack of awareness around, let's say, bipolar, for example?
Yeah. Every time I say I have bipolar, I have to distinguish between which one I have and which one I don't. Because the perception of bipolar is bipolar 1, and where it's, like you were saying with your mum, every day could be different. But bipolar 2 is different. It's sustained depression and then just a chance of mania. But I'm surprised that there's not enough. It tends to be more depression and anxiety.
Yeah, and when we're talking,
that's fine. But,
I think I remember we were talking with Simon, and he said 2% of the population have it.
Yeah,
it's still a pretty large number.
If you look at the definition of bipolar in a broad sense, it's you have up days and you have down days. 50% of people would have up days and down days.
Very true. Yeah.
So. I think it's more common than people know. Yeah,
and that's sort of, for me, point of doing this stuff and talking about stuff openly like this, and appreciate yourself and Simon, who come on previously just to be open about it, is just, for me, the lack of resources and video online about it severely lacks. My frustration is mental health awareness is associated with just depression and anxiety. It's just a bucket term. There's so much with mental health, let's say bipolar, schizophrenia. Then you've got children, which is my situation, who have parents with these situations, right? And the support or the funding there is just non-existent. I'm only 31, so it's not this long ago since I've gone through it all, but the lack of support there, the stigma there, even basic things. If you're better off to have your parents a drug dealer. You probably get more support from the government back in the day than being in that situation. And what people don't realise is that children in those situations, they're young carers. Even though they might be 12 years old or whatever, the person generally exists for the kids. Right, so the person generally, I know if my old girl, she many times used to say, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your kids. And it's a very simple thing. It was always an indirect threat or something before school.
I think, sorry to cut you off, that I wouldn't be here. I would be lying to you if I said I didn't have suicidal thoughts. I've been lucky that I haven't planned and acted and done anything, but there have been close times, but my logical brain kicks in, and usually it's the people around me that I think of first. Now, it's a shame if your mum was using that as a bit of a...
Yeah, I won't go into it too much, but just an example, just to try and tell people about what the pressures is when you grow up in those situations. And the funny thing is what you said when you went to do your talk about people saying you didn't know you went through that. I did a similar video online, and I published it. I had people DMing me and all that sort of stuff saying, I had a parent similar to that, and random people out of the blue. I put it on public and got shared a bit. So it's just quite interesting how there is a lot of people who go through that situation. You'll never hear about it. And I think it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. in regards to the support infrastructure, especially just because of the disadvantages people in those situations, then they're more statistically inclined to have mental illness. They're more likely less to have employment, all that sort of stuff. But in regards to your situation, so you've got a good support network, and that's great. So you've got a girlfriend, which is, I think, a partner is very, very important. I think when a lot of trouble with mental illness comes with people with conditions is if there's no support network, or let's say they're single, for example. Nothing wrong with that, but I think there's a lot of problems with single parents or not having that person they can go to or knows them to say, oh, he's getting a bit whatever, I need to do something about it.
Definitely. I mean, I'm also lucky my girlfriend's got a Bachelor of Neuroscience.
Oh, that definitely helps.
She's got a very in-depth understanding of how the brain works. So when I told her I've got bipolar 2, she's like, yeah, cool, it's just the way your brain's just wired differently.
Yeah. And
she took that on. And then I was like, okay, well, there's going to be certain times where I'm just a bit different, and she accepted it. So amazing support. My parents as well had really good support from my parents. Sometimes a little bit too much from my mum. Your mum can be very caring, and but if that's the only negative, I mean, she does so much for me, so it's amazing. And my dad as well. Like when I have been in these depressive episodes, I've been staying at my dad's. So when I was single, that one that went for 10 to 11 months, I was just at my dad's.
Yeah.
And he did things like he forced me to because we eventually went to the psychologist. He forced me to get up and walk every day. He said, Tim, you're washing the dishes today. That's going to be part of your routine, right? You're going to make your bed, get up and make your bed. So get out of bed.
Let's get you moving, yeah.
He got me moving.
Right.
There was a period where I just broke down, and my dad's an engineer, and it had been about 8-9 months that I'd been doing nothing, and this thought in my head was just, I wasn't at uni because I had to defer it, so it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And then Dad came home and I just broke down, and he's an engineer, so his engineering brain would have gone, okay, what's the fix? So he took me, booked in an emergency appointment with my psychologist. She then went, wow, this is too much for me to handle, booked me into a psychiatrist, and then got the right medication. But that support of having, I guess, my dad and also my mum got involved. The parents are separated, but my mum got involved as soon as psychologists and psychiatrists knew, they were in communication. But I guess to have that support network of my dad to do that, yeah, really powerful.
Now, what other systems do you have in place? You do have that. You do have your girlfriend. Do you? And you said you do actively tell her, right? So if there's something where you will actually go, which I think
I will now. I will now. Right. Last year I didn't.
Okay.
Yep.
Which I think is very common because
I'll just define how I see bipolar. So the depression side of my bipolar gives me an insight into myself and education and lessons into myself that a lot of people don't get. The mania gives me an ability to be motivated, passionate, creative, and excited about things, tap into a level of energy that a lot of people don't get as well.
Can we go back to the depression thing, what you said? That's very interesting. I've never heard this said before. So about some of the insights you get in yourself, which you think others people might not get.
Okay, so when you're down in the dumps, and then it's that period of coming out of it where everything's been taken away from you, you've gone back to basics, you then learn, okay, what got me there? Why did I start feeling that way? You then learn what you're really passionate about. Like the podcast really took off when I thought about it and said, what do I actually enjoy doing? Now I'm coming out of this depressive episode. Where can I go? Because if you're at rock bottom, the only way to go is up. So the lessons that I learned in terms of who I am and the self-development, crazy. So that's what I mean. But also in terms of the lesson that got me there. So what got me there last time was I said yes to too many things. I overcommitted, and then I didn't have the outsourcing to which I do now. And I then let people down. So I had this overwhelming sense of I've let mentors down, I've let friends down, and that's what got me there. So then the lesson from that was you need to tell people. In my business now, I create video content for people. That means I go out and shoot stuff. But if something I don't think it will happen, but if something happens to me, I've got friends that are video producers, and I've talked to them. I said, I've got depression. This happens sometimes. If I go for a period, can I flick you guys on the work and you'll edit it for me? I'm happy to pay you because I can't, but I just need that to get to the person. And then I can communicate that to the client because I'm open with people. I can say, hey, look, it's going to take me 4 weeks to do this because I'm not healthy at the moment. Like, I'm sick. I'm just not healthy.
And you say that to them, welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just not healthy. Like, I don't have to tell them exactly what it is. They'll probably know if they listen to this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
But I'll just say I'm not healthy right now. I need to go into the hospital. I need to do this. Doesn't matter. I've given the work to my referral partners, and they're going to deliver it to you in 2 weeks. So, but having that was the lesson of last time, of having that outsourcing option.
So you're able to gain that introspection from the depressive. But also, I think what you just said then, if I'm a business owner and someone told me that, like that level of honesty, make me even think higher of that person than trying to maybe lie or something like that. So
people. So let's talk about even people just going for a job. The employer can't ask you, do you have a mental health problem? That's against the law. But if you take it on the front, because they're going to find out. If you go on the front step, I'm not suggesting you do it in the first interview, but if it's getting down to the point where they're going to hire you, or even when they've hired you, actually that's probably when you should do it. When they've hired you, you say, and this is what I did, before I went full-time as a business development manager, I was telemarketing casual, then I moved into BDM. I told my boss, I said, to the people that I asked, should I do this, told me not to, but I did it anyway. I said, look, Bruce, before you hire me, I need to tell you something about me. I have been diagnosed with manic depression, and there may be periods where I'm out. Now, fast forward 24 months, when I went through an episode, they realised that was the case, and they knew that I didn't just bail, I was unhealthy. So then, when I got better, I was able to reconnect with them, and then go back and do more work with them because they understood.
And you're honest and you're genuine about it, and you gave nothing else for the business, or anyone who runs a business can ask for, right? For the employee to be honest with them. I think it's very important. It's great that you can work that, because a lot of people with bipolar, they can't work, and the reason why they can't, well, from my experience anyway, just because of the stress. You know, you said before, something set you off. So with my mum, she would try and do a part-time job, get a bit stressful or whatever, bang, trigger, like that. So that's one of the side effects sometimes as well with people. So it's great to see you obviously running your own business and doing really, really well.
I think that's one of the reasons I am bent to running my own business.
Right.
Because as a business owner, you do have that level of freedom to go, I need to sleep an extra hour today. Or, no, I need to just take a couple more hours on lunch to just regulate, you know. And that's why I like working on my own schedule rather than I need to be here at 8:30. So the most successful job that I've had was as a salesperson, because I was able to, I could book an appointment at 10 a.m, stay at home, and then go to that appointment at 10, or book an appointment at 6 or whatever. It was as soon as I was put into a structure where, and I can still do it, but where I was told that this is when I have to go on lunch. This is when, that's where it was a bit harder. But the ability to have freedom in terms of that entrepreneurship, and even though I said you should have these conversations with your employers if you're going for a job, like, it's still hard. It's not I'm open with it, but it's still a hard thing to do. Like you don't want that to be the factor that makes them not hire you, even though they'll legally say that it wasn't, but subconsciously it could be, which really sucks.
What do you think needs to happen in the next 10 years regarding, let's say, mental health awareness in the bipolar space, for example? What would you like to see happen in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 year period?
I'd like to see the distinction between the two communicated a little bit more. I'd also love to, just see more conversation about it like this. I personally would love to get on as many mental health podcasts as possible as well. Like, I'm very open. So people that are, I guess, more open to share their story about it, because, as I say, go back to my definition of depression is an enhancer in terms of insights into yourself. I think people with depression can give people insights that they may not even have. So just more conversations like this. I think Authentic, your podcast, we've talked about this off camera. I think naturally your podcast is going to have that bend to it.
Yeah, well, we're talking about I was trying to ask your advice with the podcast because everyone says you've got to do a niche, and I don't have it. I don't really have naturally a niche. I've got a bit of interest, but it's sort of going this way because I think the lack of content regarding this space. I do think there is content regarding depression and anxiety, but in regards to
Black Dog do a good job.
Correct.
Beyond Blue do a good job.
Yeah.
Those are two resources. There's some okay stuff on YouTube, but nothing that's a full-length conversation with someone like me that has the illness.
Correct. You know? And then that's and I completely agree, and that's half the reason for it. And for me, it's also the touch points as well around that, because it's not just when a person has bipolar, for example, it's the family as well. And for me, as I said, the priority is the kids. I grew up in a situation like that, and there's still no content. You'll YouTube online. My mother has a bipolar issue, and you'll see some lady doing a really great bit of video, and people are real shocked by it and didn't know that happened. But it's such a common occurrence. I remember, I think it's 1 in 5 kids in Victoria was the stat, have a parent or a guardian who has a mental illness.
Wow.
Whether that's, I would say a large amount of that would be, let's say, your typical, depression or anxiety. But large percentage is bipolar anxiety, and there's bipolar schizophrenia. And the lack of content around it is surprising. It just seems to me that the big organisations who do a really, really good job in that one area, I just think these are such good tack-ons they can do and expand their portfolio of awareness.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job in changing the conversation, like, are you okay, all that sort of stuff, which is a big thing. But
the thing I'd love to see actually is, so Are You OK Day is great, and the people that came up with that, fantastic. But what I see with Are You OK Day is it's just that day. And it shouldn't just be that day, because someone could be depressed 3 months earlier to that and then do something stupid, and it's not in Are You OK Day. So you should ask people, are they okay, almost every day. The other thing I see with Are You OK Day is people, and this is terrible, people using it as vanity for themselves.
Absolutely.
I've got one friend, I won't mention their name, but every single time this person posts on LinkedIn, they post on Facebook, and they say, reach out to me if you're okay, Are You OK Day. I have messaged them multiple times when I've been going through stuff. No response.
Yeah, that's disappointing to hear. And I agree with you what you said. I'm glad you said it first before me, because I was saying cynical on it, but I completely agree, especially on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And for me, I get really frustrated. I'm very cynical in a way, because growing up in a situation which I grew up where I've been inside psych wards every year for a long, long time, in foster homes due to this sort of stuff, right? I know it a lot. And then to see stuff like that really frustrates me, because in my opinion they've got no idea about it whatsoever. It's highly disrespectful to a large amount of people who have the conditions.
I'm this close to commenting on, and probably will this year when he puts, because he'll put this post out again. I'll comment and be like, look, I've messaged you and nothing. So, and look, people get busy and whatever, and I get that. But if you're specifically putting out a post about Are You OK Day, and someone reaches out to you, I'm sure the majority of people that do that will. And there has been people, one of them, a friend of mine, Kern, he's been fantastic. He put out a post, and I was going through a period at that point, and I messaged him, and he messaged back with an amazing response and made me feel appreciated and made me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
so
which is great to hear.
Yeah, look, on the flip side of things, there can be people that use it for the right reasons, which my friend there did. So but the two sides of the coin, there shouldn't be the two sides of the coin.
That's true, and I agree. And I feel as though it gets used a bit sometimes, because it seems to be it is a trending sort of thing at the moment. Is mental health awareness and stuff like that, and you see these influencers or whoever try and use that, and it does really frustrate me, because as I said, my cynicism kicks in and says, well, have you had ECT? Have you seen someone have ECT? Have you been into a psychiatric ward? I'll take you there to actually show you the true side of it, right? Of mental health. And that's where my cynicism kicks in, and seeing it's almost, I'm not saying it's glamorized, but just all these influencers and stuff purporting they champion the cause. It's you wouldn't know the first thing about, I'll take you to a psychiatric ward, let's go in there. We'll take you to there, let's meet some of the people and hear their stories, They wouldn't dare step a foot in there. They've got no idea that ECT even still goes on, for example. There's new magnetic therapies and stuff like that. So my cynicism definitely kicks in, and it definitely frustrates me hearing that side of it. And I dare say it's a common thing, unfortunately, at the moment.
It is the same with the bushfires as well. People use the bushfires to generate social credit.
And just look at it all gone away now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it's still affecting those areas,
I
right?
spoke to a firefighter yesterday. And it was funny because it was the first time I spoke to a firefighter and I said, thank you. This is an opportunity for me to thank someone. That social media and everyone gets behind it, and now 3 weeks later,
it's just dead, isn't it?
We've moved on to the new thing.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And we had
so that's the same with Are You OK Day. Why does it have to be this siloed event? It is better than doing nothing, and I would love to collaborate with Are You OK Day people.
Yeah.
But you asked about change. Make that Are You OK Day maybe Are You OK Friday or something. Yeah.
Make it a more regular interval.
Yeah.
I think it would be great. And the content they're pushing out, the more regular content they can do, the better, especially with Beyond Blue and stuff.
Yep.
I don't have a crack at them all the time, but majority of the time when I do it, I do a little bit because, as I said, my situation is from the bipolar side, the parent side. I just know the lack of resourcing they have, and you have these pools of money which are over here, right? And they're never done down to there. So, my hope is doing the content is to take this, to email them, just badger them and say, can you add a page to this, or can this be part of
you feature this?
Correct.
You could take that grab. So this is, I'll get back into podcasting stuff. You could take that, because I got quite emotional there talking about my dad helping me when I broke down. Take that as a snippet, and then, first of all, you publish it for your channels, and I'll publish it for mine. Might embarrass my dad, but maybe not. You send that clip to them and be like, hey, can you guys feature this? Can you guys, for you, in terms of advice for your podcast, I'd definitely do that.
Yeah.
Because then that's going to give you reach and audience to have more of these authentic conversations. There's been some really great celebrities that have come out and said, hey, this is my struggle. You get those people on this show. This is me just consulting you. Then it's gonna really take off. Yeah,
and that's the plan, was to do this, was to get enough content to then reach out and say, hey, this is something that you guys, as you said, can feature. Even a page on your website taking into this account. An organisation who we're going to do some video content with called Satellite Foundation in Victoria. They work with kids in regional areas. So basically, it's kids who've got parents with bipolar generally or schizophrenia. They bring them from all places and just have kids who've got the same experience and do workshops and all that sort of stuff. Their ambassador is a guy called Brad McEwen, who used to work as a reporter on Channel 10, all that sort of stuff. And Brad's parents, unfortunately, both committed suicide when he was younger. So he's like the ambassador for this. But he was a kid who, directly experienced by that sort of stuff. So the plan is to basically do all this sort of content, use that as a grab and say, hey, bang, 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 would you mind coming on to share it? Because the content in this space really lacks. And it's something that... I think you're touching on the key thing there is, there's a lot of content around depression, anxiety, and the person dealing with it, but what is it, what effects does it have with the kids and the family members? Yeah. So and then how can we help them? Correct. And that's, for me, is my primary focus for doing this. It's really that, because just of the lack of content that's available, and also with so much kids using Instagram, obviously YouTube and stuff like that, now they watch videos on YouTube, that's the content where they could see that. And they could say, well, this person's made it out and they're at an age now and they're sort of doing their thing. And it's normal. Yeah. It's more normal. It's more normalising it. Again, coming back to what do you want to see change is the normalisation of it. You as a mental health affected child shouldn't have that stigma of my parent is in hospital for mental health. It should just be like the T-shirt that you're wearing. Yeah, and exactly right. And growing up in a regional area as well, very hush-hush, right? A lot of stigma, a lot of rumours whatsoever. Schools doesn't even know. So that sort of stuff, just the destigmatisation of it. But also the people with the conditions as well, saying it's okay to let others know. I don't know about your experience, but I know from my mother and a couple of people who else have it, they're so embarrassed by it. They don't tell anyone. They're very embarrassed, and they just never did, and that made it hard for us growing up because we can't tell the school. So we might miss a day because she doesn't want to get up, or whatever happens, or something happens at home, and you can't tell the teacher because they're embarrassed by it. So you might lash out or whatever, and you're getting in trouble for something. Well, you do have not an excuse for that behaviour, but you do have an extenuating circumstance. So, and that's actually, you said a key thing there, not an excuse. I hate people using mental health as an excuse for their behaviour. Yeah, that's a good point. It's never an excuse. It's a reason. It's a logical reason. So
if someone can't call me, the reason is this, but it's never an excuse. You do have, as I said, it's easy for me to hide my depression. So me hiding that depression is a choice. I have a choice to say nothing, or I have a choice to tell my girlfriend. It's the excuse thing. I'm anxious today, so I can't.
It's just an easy way, isn't it?
Yeah. But again, you don't want to talk down to what people are doing. But so it's not an excuse. You had a valid reason to miss school because your mum couldn't get out of bed.
That's true, and the problem for a lot of kids in those situations, it's very easy to be the victim, right? You can say, I'm going to blame this, and this, and you take that mentality. A lot of people take that mentality through adulthood, right? Regardless of that situation.
It's easy.
It's easy.
I've done it. I've been the victim in cases. So but you learn from that.
Correct. I think that's the thing. Like, well, how do you teach people to get out of that mindset? At an early age as well, which is a big thing for me. Doing this is, I want to try and get a lot more successful people who have grown up in a similar situation or who have it, and say it's not an excuse. Everyone's got different circumstances. Yours just happens to be this. Look at what this person's done, and that's the whole point. Is this sort of, your life, well, let's say at the time is very unstable and it's not the best, and that's acknowledged. But when you get to 18 or 19 or whatever, you can go and do your own thing, and you can use that learned experience, and you've got probably personality traits which you don't know develop from it. Let's say resilience, adaptability. You can deal with change, unpredictability. These sort of things which are really good skills to have, or good mindsets or character traits to have moving forward. But trying to actually get that information to someone, trying to package it up, trying to get them to listen.
It's funny because, you take marketing, so awareness, interest, desire, and then action. So, that's the steps that it takes people to buy, right? So in order for people to buy in on mental health, we're still at the awareness stage.
Oh, yeah.
Then people need to be interested. They then need to desire to change, and then we need to take action. So my brain, because I'm a marketing nerd, will always run through that. But where can we then start at awareness? And I think things like this helps.
Yeah, and that's the point of it. And I'm hoping to, we can get a bit more content. And the plan is hopefully down the track, once it gets a little bit of traction to sort of then the previous episodes, which like yourself and this, we'll come back in and we'll use those clips to reach out. And
well, I'll put this on my channel and my podcast as well.
Cool.
I think it's good for people to know a little bit more about me. I very much let the guest take the center stage, but I'll put this on mine as well.
Nice, appreciate it. So is there anything you want to leave us with today, or mention? Or
look, so I think actually a story that could help people that are depressed at the moment or have got a problem is little bits of action. 1% of action makes a big difference. And listening to this, you're depressed, you might be going, okay, what does this person know? Because that happens to me. But I recovered from depression, 80% recovered in 8 days.
Wow.
Now, how I did this was, and you want to get better, don't you? So I had a friend, Bruce was his name. He said, I'm going to call you at 7:30 in the morning. I'm not going to get off the phone until you get out of your bed and you go for a walk. Now, out of fear of not wanting to take that conversation, I got up at 7 o'clock. This was after me staying in bed till 2, to then going and waking up at 7. I went for a walk. I didn't want to do it, but I went for a walk. I did the same thing the next day. Went for a bit of a longer walk. The next day, took on a bit of a hill. So now I'm doing more activity. 3rd day, 4th day, 5th day, same thing, 7 o'clock. Then by the 7th and 8th day, I went and had a shave. So completely shaved. I grew this massive beard. There's a photo. I took a photo of it. Massive beard, scraggly hair. I had a shave, clean shaven, went and got a haircut on the 7th day. And then the 8th day, so haircut, shaved, everything, I was in such a better state of mind. I then got the medication right. I then built from there. So that block. But I was essentially recovered from depression in 8 days versus 9 months of doing nothing. Just from this one friend, but all it took was that 1% step out of the house. And I know it's very hard, but maybe for you it's brushing your teeth.
That's very, very interesting. And that's I'm talking to a previous guest. This very similar thing he exactly said was very, very similar. And it's great that you have someone who can do that for you, which is really, really good. And if you do, my advice for anyone is if you do know someone who might have bipolar or something like that, maybe reach out to them and offer it as a thing. That's really, really good to hear. So now let's give a shout out to your website, which you're working on currently, your handles, your podcast, all that sort of stuff. So where can everyone find you?
Yeah, the website's still under works, but you can find me on Instagram at Beatalking. That's BEAN Talking, all one word. On Spotify, iTunes, and all other podcasting at Beatalking with Peak Performers. Best way to reach me, send me a message on Instagram, either Tim Beanland, so Tim Beanland, or even LinkedIn as well. I will help you if you say you're depressed and you're going through stuff. I'll give you some tips and advice, but I'm not a professional, so more than likely I will say go and talk to this person. But at the same time, I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone that's going through something. So give me a message, let's have a chat. But yeah, I'll, if it's too much for me to give advice on, professional help's always the way to go. But yeah, so Tim Beanland, Beanland.
I would say for people, if you are interested, give Tim a message on LinkedIn because you're quite active on all social platforms. So I'm sure if anyone messages you on Instagram or LinkedIn, you obviously get back to them straight away. And you've got TikTok as well.
TikTok too, yeah.
So if you want to as well, if you know anything of doing your own podcast, hit up Tim, which is I think it's a niche service. I don't think many people would offer that to come actually do it in your home and set up, which I think is really, really good. So please take that up, and I appreciate you doing this really much and being so open.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.